Bismillah, Alhamdulillah, As-salatu was-salamu ala Rasulillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Today, inshallah, we will discuss the last and final rule of Noon Sakina and Tanween, and that is Ikhfa. The literal meaning of Ikhfa is to hide or conceal. In the rules of Noon Sakina and Tanween, we define Ikhfa like this. If any letter other than the letters of Idhar, Idgham, or Iqlab follows the Noon Sakina or Tanween, we hide the Noon Sakina or the Noon Sakina hidden in Tanween by pronouncing it somewhere between Idhar and Idgham. Now I'll try to simplify it and explain it. When Noon Sakina or Tanween is followed by 6 throat letters, Hamzaha, Ainha, Ghainha, we read Noon Sakina clearly, we do Idhar of Noon Sakina. When Noon Sakina or Tanween is followed by 6 Yarmaloon letters, Ya, Ra, Mim, Lam, Waw, Noon, we do Idgham of Noon Sakina. And when Noon Sakina or Tanween is followed by letter Ba, we do Iqlab of Noon Sakina. We change Noon Sakina into Mim. So after the letters of Idhar, Idgham, or Iqlab, we are left with 15 letters, and those letters are Ta, Sa, Jim, Dal, Zal, Zay, Sin, Shin, Sod, Bod, Ta, Za, Fa, Qaf, Kaf. These 15 letters are called Ikhfa letters in regards to the rules of Noon Sakina and Tanween. So when Noon Sakina or Tanween is followed by one of the Ikhfa letters, we will hide the Noon Sakina by pronouncing it between Idhar and Idgham. And in order to do the Ikhfa of Noon Sakina, we hide the oral part of Noon Sakina, which is the tip of the tongue touching the roof of the mouth, and only give the nasal part, which is the gunna of Noon Sakina, when one of the 15 Ikhfa letters come after the Noon Sakina or Tanween. Ikhfa can happen within one word or between two separate words. And when we do Ikhfa of Noon Sakina, we need to see the letter coming after Noon Sakina or Tanween and prepare our mouth for the makhraj of the letter while holding the gunna of Noon Sakina for some time. The oral part of the Noon Sakina is hidden. We are not touching tip of the tongue with the roof of the mouth. We are only giving the gunna of Noon Sakina and preparing our mouth for the makhraj of the letter which is coming after Noon Sakina or Tanween while holding the gunna of Noon Sakina for some time. And if the letter after Noon Sakina or Tanween is a heavy letter, the sound of gunna will be heavy. And if the letter is light, we will give the light gunna while holding it for some time. We will see some examples here and try to understand everything that we have explained so far. So the first word written here is laylan, and the second word is tawila. Now we can see tanween here. Right after tanween, the letter is letter ta. Letter ta is neither a throat letter, so that's why we don't do idhar, nor from your Maloon letters, we don't do idgham. It's not even ba, we don't do iqlab. So we will do ikhfa here. We will hide the oral part of Noon Sakina, only give the gunna, and because ta is a heavy letter, our gunna will be heavy. We will recite this example like this. Layla tawila. We will not recite this tanween clearly or the Noon Sakina hidden in tanween clearly like this. Laylan tawila. Because now I am reciting this with idhar, and idhar only happens when Noon Sakina or Tanween is followed by throat letters. But in this case, since this is a letter of Ikhfa, I will hide the Noon. And how will I hide the Noon? I will not touch my tip of the tongue with the roof of the mouth, and I will only give gunna of Noon Sakina. I need to prepare my mouth for letter Ta, because Ta is a heavy letter. My gunna is going to be heavy, because if I give gunna light,
like this. Layla, Layla. It feels as if the letter which is coming after gunna is a light letter. But in our example, since the letter is heavy, the sound of gunna will be heavy. Layla. Instead of Layla, it should be Layla. Now the listener knows that the letter which is coming after gunna is a heavy letter. So I will be reciting it like this. ليلا طويلا ليلا طويلا. And this is how ikhfa is a pronunciation between idhar and idgham, because we are not saying laylan tawila. I'm reciting nun sakina clearly. And if I merge it, I will say layla tawila. Now I completely merge letter nun sakina into ta, but both of them are wrong. In ikhfa, I am neither reciting nun sakina clearly nor merging it with the following letter. We will hide the nun sakina. Our tip of the tongue will not touch the roof of the mouth. We will hold the gunna for some time, make the sound of gunna heavy, and recite it like this. Layla tawila. And ikhfa in this case was happening between two words. In the next example, yawman thaqila. Yawman is the first word. Thaqila is the second word. So Tanween is followed by letter Tha, which is not a letter of Idhar or Idgham or Iqlab. This is a letter of Ikhfa in regards to Noon Sakina and Tanween. Since Tha is a light letter, the sound of Gunna will be light. We will hide the Noon Sakina by not touching the tip of the tongue with the roof of the mouth. We will only give the gunna. We will hold the gunna for some time and recite it like this. Yawma thaqila. And while we are hiding the oral part of the nun sakina and giving the gunna, we will prepare our mouth for the makhraj of letter tha. We must put our tip of the tongue as close as possible to the makhraj of letter tha and then recite it like this. يوما ثقيلا يوما ثقيلا. I should not be saying يوما ثقيلا because this is idhar and this is a common mistake, and the listener can hear the noon sakina clearly instead of a hidden noon, and we need to give a special attention to avoid it, because here we are doing the ikhfa of noon sakina, not idhar of noon sakina. In the next example, ikhfa is again happening between two separate words. Yatiman fa'awa. Tanween is followed by letter fa. Fa is a light letter. While hiding the oral part of the noon sakina by not touching the tip of the tongue with the roof of the mouth, holding the gunna for some time and preparing our mouth for the makhraj of letter fa, we will give this gunna light because fa is a light letter. We will recite this example like this. Yatima fa'awa. Yatima fa'awa. We should not be reciting it like this. Yatiman fa'awa. Because now I am reciting the Nun Sakina hidden in Tanween clearly. I'm not hiding it. I'm reciting this Nun Sakina hidden in Tanween with Idhar instead of Ikhfa. The other thing, I should not be making this Gunna heavy like this. Yatima fa. So now when my gunna is heavy, it feels like a heavy letter is coming after gunna. So I need to avoid giving an izhar sound when tanween is followed by an ikhfa letter, and I need to make my gunna light if the letter after nun sakina or tanween is a light letter. In the next example, ikhfa is happening within one word where noon sakina is followed by letter dha. Dha is a heavy letter. We will hide the oral part of noon sakina and only give the gunna due to letter dha, which is a heavy letter. Our gunna is going to be heavy, and we will also hold the gunna for some time. We will recite this example like this. منظرين منظرين. We will hide the noon sakina by pronouncing it between idhar and idgham. I should not be saying munwarin. Now you can hear my noon sakina clearly, and this is idhar. And if I say mudwarin, now I merge letter noon sakina into letter dha, which is also wrong. I need to do the ikhfa of noon sakina here. I should not give light gunna. I should make it heavy and try to recite it like this. Movorin. In the next example, Noon Sakina is followed by letter Ta. Ikhfa is happening within one word. And here we need to give special attention to this ikhfa because when there is ikhfa of Noon Sakina before letter Ta or letter Dal or letter Ta, their makhraj is also from the tip of the tongue, touching the gum line, and it is relatively close to the makhraj of noon. So while doing ikhfa, make sure not to touch your tip of the tongue to any part of the roof of the mouth. While giving gunna, we must place our tip of the tongue as close as possible to the makhraj of ta, letter dal, or letter ta, without touching the makhraj of letter ta, letter dal, or letter ta, or the makhraj of noon sakina. And we will recite this example like this. Kuntum, kuntum. We should not be saying kuntum. Now you can hear my noon sakina clearly. I should not be saying that because this is idhar of noon sakina. So we should avoid touching the tip of the tongue with the roof of the mouth while giving gunna. And we hold the gunna for some time. And for letter ta, the gunna of this ikhfa will be light. As we have mentioned that ikhfa is a pronunciation between idhar and idgham, because in idhar you recite the noon sakina clearly, and idgham you merge the noon sakina with the next letter. But in ikhfa, you only give the nasal part of the noon sakina and prepare your mouth for the makhraj of the next letter. But there is something we need to remember, that do not mix ikhfa with incomplete merging of noon sakina and tanween. If you see in this example that we have already discussed in the rules of idgham, because here the gunna is merged with letter ya. We do not say the gunna separate and then we prepare our mouth for letter ya and then give ya later. If I have to recite it this word with ikhfa, I will say something like this. Ma ya'amal. But we don't do that. Rather, we merge the gunna with letter ya. May ya'amal. Gunna is not the characteristic of letter ya. We merge the gunna with letter ya and recite it like this. May ya'amal. In this case as well, gunna is not the characteristic of letter waw. We merge gunna with letter waw, and this is how we do idgham. But in ikhfa, we recite it like this. ليلا طويلا يوما ثقيلا يتيما فآوى منظرين كنتم. So in all these examples, we hide the oral part of the noon where the tip of the tongue is touching the roof of the mouth. We only give the nasal part, which is gunna of noon sakina, and we hold the gunna for some time. If the ikhfa letter is a heavy letter, the gunna will be heavy, and if it is light, the gunna will be light. So out of 15 ikhfa letters, the ikhfa of letter qaf and letter kaf is slightly different. The makhraj of qaf and kaf is from the deepest part of the tongue, and noon is from the tip of the tongue. The makhraj of noon and qaf or kaf are far from each other. So in this case, we put our tongue on the makhraj of letter qaf and letter kaf and then apply gunna while staying on the makhraj. Because qaf is a heavy letter, the gunna will be heavy, and kaf is a light letter, the gunna will be light. And I will recite it to you. How do we give ikhfa of noon sakina in case of letter qaf and letter kaf? Let's take the first example, which is min qabli. So we will recite it like this. Min qabli. Instead of saying min qabli, Because if I say min qabli, I am not at the makhraj of letter qaf. But in case of qaf and kaf, we go to the makhraj of letter qaf and kaf and then give gunna. Min qabl. An easy way to remember is if we take the example of the word uncle in English and try to stretch the sound of UNC, the sound will be like this. Uncle, 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 uncle. So this is how we can practice to give the ikhfa of letter qaf. And in this case, the letter kaf is a light letter. We go to the makhraj of letter kaf and then give gunna. Since kaf is a light letter, the gunna will be light and we recite it like this. Man kana. We do not say man kana because this is idhar. And we should also avoid saying like this, ma kana, because now I'm not at the makhraj of letter kaf, but in case of qaf and kaf, we go to the makhraj and then give gunna. Man kana. And we can take an example of the English word ink, I-N-K, and try to stretch it. Ink, ink. And this is how we can practice the ikhfa of letter kaf. Man kana. So in the first example, the ikhfa will be like this. Min qabli, min qabli. In the second example, ikhfa will be like this. Man kana, man kana. For letter qaf, the gunna is heavy. We hold the gunna for some time. And for letter kaf, the gunna is light. We hold the gunna for some time and recite these examples like this. Min qabli, min qabli. The second one, man kana, man kana. In the Usmani script, you don't find the shadda sign on the letter of ikhfa after nun sakina or tanween, and the tanween with a fatha, dhamma or kasra are not aligned over each other. So the tanween will be written something like this. And the nun sakina will not have sukoon or jazm sign on the top. So in short, the ikhfa is to hide the oral part of the nun sakina and only give the gunna when nun sakina or tanween is followed by one of the 15 ikhfa letters. And the reciter must place their organ as close as possible to the makhraj of the next letter, that is after nun sakina or tanween, without touching the makhraj of the letter or the makhraj of nun sakina. Ikhfa can happen within one word or between two separate words. And if the ikhfa letter of nun sakina or tanween is a heavy letter, we will give heavy gunna. And if it is a light letter, we will give a light gunna and we will hold the gunna for some time. Alhamdulillah, this is the end of the rules of nun sakina and tanween. Inshallah, we will continue with another topic in our next class. جزاكم الله خير. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.